Good morning, everyone. Welcome into another edition of WST Sunday Live. My name's Hrabchak. In a moment, I'll be joined by Lyss Houde, and we're joining you on a very chilly morning here in Winnipeg. Environment Canada with the wind chill, minus 51. So hope everyone is staying warm, but maybe that's not quite as cold as the words that Scott Arneal had for his hockey team last night after their 5-1 loss to the Detroit Red Wings. On home ice, Hockey Night in Canada, national TV audience, and as Scott Arneal put it, the Jets laid an egg. They laid an egg as the Red Wings score 4 goals in the third period, only one of which was an empty netter, and win that game 5-1. So we're going to be breaking this one down from all angles. We'll talk about the Scott Arneal comments. We'll talk about the game and where we thought things turned. And then later on in the show, we're going to talk about the Alumni game roster. That was announced earlier this week. Lyss and I haven't really had a chance to discuss. We'll do our Chuds power poll of the top 5 players we want to see added to the roster moving forward, and all of those things. So thank you, everyone, for joining us. Hope you're staying warm on this Sunday morning. Hope you got a coffee. And thank you for joining us on WST Sunday Live. Let's bring in my co-host. We were both at the game last night, up in the press box. Lyss, how are you doing on this chilly Sunday morning? How are you staying warm?
Well, I have my iced coffee. So that's a great step.
Yeah.
Yesterday, it was obviously not nearly this cold, but I had to go to my grandparents who live kind of on a farm, where it's 3 dirt roads and 1 gravel road to get to their place at the intersection kind of shebang. So it's like the risk was high in terms of if your car gets stuck in the drifts on the, in the rural Manitoba roads.
Yeah.
I had my big thing of iced coffee beside me, and I was like, this probably isn't my smartest vibe. But my counter to that is it could be worse. I could have been drinking iced coffee outside today, which I'm not. I'm drinking iced coffee inside, talking about the cold from more of a philosophical perspective, more of a vibes perspective, if anything. So I'm doing wonderful, and very excited for this.
I know it's cold and stuff, but I saw some people talking in chat, so I went and looked. Yeah, the Winnipeg Richardson International Airport as of 8 a.m. this morning, minus 38, and then the wind chill minus 51. So it's cold.
And
man.
Sometimes when you look at the forecast or whatever, or not even the forecast, but what the weather is right now kind of thing, it'll have a secret third thing where it's the actual temperature and the wind chill, but there's also the feels right, which sometimes isn't the wind chill either. It's a totally different thing, and so
I think we all know what it feels like.
Wind chill is minus 51. Yeah. Oh my gosh. Okay. No, I need everybody to know that yesterday my apartment building's fire alarm went off at 6 o'clock in the morning, and so we all had to go outside for 20 minutes in the freezing cold, and I was like, this is not
not ideal.
This is not
how you want
how I want to be spending my 6 a.m. on a Saturday. I would like to be asleep personally, actually. So that was we were not having a good time, that's for sure.
And the Jets weren't having a good time either last night, Lyss, as the Detroit Red Wings blitzed them in the third, 5-1, the final score. I think where we want to start is with Scott Arneal's postgame. If people didn't see it, some fiery comments for the team. So we'll get to that clip first, kind of set the stage for what the coach thought of last night's game, and then Lyss and I will give our thoughts on it as well. But here's Scott Arneal, not happy with his team's performance after last night's game.
Going into the third.
That game didn't turn. That was one of the most embarrassing games for me in the last month. All of us. That was an embarrassing game. We were looking for a pond hockey, don't get hit, don't hit anybody. Just play an easy, soft game, and that's pretty much what we did for 2 periods, and then it exploded in the third period.
And how do you get that out of your game at this point of the year?
We're fighting for our lives. We're fighting for our lives, and we go out and lay that egg. It's not good enough. It's not good enough. That just, it was the last game of this sort of homestand, and you know what? We're heading out on the road for some real tough buildings, 4 tough buildings. that was 2 points that we needed badly, and not good enough.
So there's Scott Arneal. Called it embarrassing for all of us. One of the more embarrassing games of the last month. Really shades of the Utah game last year. And again, talking about last year, like there was one time where Arneal came up to the podium and was not happy because they won a lot of hockey games. There's been a lot more of that this season, but given what we heard from Koepke and DeMello beforehand and their tone and their overall attitude about the game, I was not expecting Arneal to come up and kind of fire away like he did. And yeah, I called it pond hockey, soft, don't hit anyone, don't get hit hockey. Can't really say he's wrong. I mean, if you were in the building last night, that was really a no-hitter for the first two periods, and then a very fast team that the Jets knew was very fast and knew was going to attack them off the rush got to the Jets in the third off the rush with multiple rush goals against. Liz, what were your kind of initial takeaways maybe from the game? And also, you were there in the room as well, as was I. Scott Arneal's post-game presser where he laid into the team pretty good.
Yeah, I didn't initially agree with Scott Arneal's kind of assessment just in terms of like something as simple as, the pond hockey, no hits, whatever. I just quickly looked up. They had 22 hits in yesterday's game, which isn't like a lot. Like I get that. The game before though, against Florida, they had 24. Like it didn't feel like it warranted that type of stark reaction comparatively to other games that we've seen of late. I've been hard on this team of late. Lots of people have been hard on this team of late, whatever. I just didn't think that was necessarily how differently I felt about how awful, quote unquote, to speak, that game was compared to other ones that we've seen from the team lately. So I was a little bit surprised by kind of the way that presser went, the way that his kind of comments talked about how the game didn't turn and everything like that. I personally really feel like it turned a little bit. There was a lot in the first and second period that I thought kind of fell into one bucket in one category that felt a bit more like Winnipeg Jets were controlling it a bit more and all these different things. It wasn't like excellent or anything, but to me, there's a huge difference between the beginning and the end of that game, right? So,
yeah.
And then I completely agree with you as well that, the players, when we spoke with them afterwards, just seemed a little bit kind of down and like, a little bit, I don't know, upset is where, but just, it wasn't anger that was being conveyed in their tone in the same way that it was in Scott Arneal's afterwards. So, but at the same time, I think that it is fair to give that kind of assessment of where this group and this team is at right now. And one thing that I think I will say that does echo Scott Arneal's comments is that was one of the first games in a while that it felt like, especially when, Detroit tied it up and got up one or whatever, that it looked like the group wasn't giving it their full effort, right? This is something that you and I have talked about, Connor, over the last few months, where it's like it's been really hard to kind of come on here and rag on them when you watch them, and it's like they're following every single puck all the way down to the end boards. They're trying to beat out the icing calls. They're winning puck battles. They're laying hits. They're doing these things that make it look like they are still trying. And we've had conversations about, is it bad that even that's not good enough? Well, yesterday, it didn't really feel like that same energy of game. It felt a little bit more like a team that knows that they have an insanely crazy uphill battle to climb going into the playoffs. And, the odds are so stacked against them that what's even the point? I got that vibe a little bit more from yesterday, which is not a vibe I've really been getting from their on-ice play lately. So I think that's probably the most alarming part of that.
Yeah, like I agree with you on, that this is kind of what we've been seeing from this Jets team, at least. Like the vibe is absolutely different, especially last night. And then Arneal kind of drops that in the post game, and that changes everything. But if you, and feel free, if you're at the games this week, feel free to let me know in the comments down below. Outside of a double minor penalty against the St. Louis Blues, did the Jets not play the exact same for the Blues, Panthers, and tonight's game? Like this whole don't hit anyone, don't get hit. Like the Florida game, I've had 4 or 5 fans that were in the attendance that night tell me straight up that they wanted a refund because that was just one Eastern team versus one Western team. Both of them didn't really care. We got our extra point in overtime. We'll decide this in a shootout. And, we can all just move on with our lives. And, yeah, Hrabchak in the third period gave a few jabs. And, now we're all mad and angry. Yeah, okay, well, it's the big bad Florida Panthers coming to town. You got to expect that that's going to be a thing. I just, all week, sitting up in the press box watching these games, there just never felt like there was any juice. Like this team is desperate, and they talk about how they know where they're at in the standings, and they know that they need these games, and they know that they need points, but it never really, like, they got points. They got 3 out of 4 in the St. Louis game and then the Florida shootout loss. But it just wasn't really like a sustainable way to play or sustainable way to win. And you look at Monday as well, Chicago, you get shut out 2-0, big emotional game for Jonathan Taves. Scott Arneal, the Tuesday game, they get a double minor and they score 2 goals on that and get an empty netter. And then Florida, they score 1 goal. Last night they scored 1 goal. This team's trying to win 2-1. They're trying to win 1-0. And I get it. They don't have the offensive horses to win 6-5. Like, I'm totally okay with that. But it just makes for a brand of hockey that looks more uninspiring to me and doesn't really scream desperation when you have 10 shots on goal halfway through the third period, which is seeming like more and more of a thing that's happening for this Winnipeg Jets team right now.
It definitely doesn't scream desperation. You're right on that. And I think maybe one question that I have about kind of these last 2 games in particular, where it's like, okay, St. Louis, Winnipeg, a little bit of a rivalry, this, that, whatever. If you're the Florida Panthers and the Detroit Red Wings, okay, and I understand that everyone's going to say these are pro hockey teams, they try, they do this. I will fight you on that. Hockey teams will treat different games differently, and we all know that. They'll maybe not say it exactly verbatim on the record, but like they will treat certain games differently than others, whether there's the Mitch Marner return to Toronto or whatever. Like there are things that you rally for. If you're the Florida Panthers or the Detroit Red Wings, I know points matter a lot for Florida in particular right now and stuff, but I also don't know that we saw the best from either of those teams they have to offer, right? Like this isn't going into Ball Arena on a Saturday night knowing that, you have the opportunity to shake the NHL if you're, the Nashville Predators and beat Colorado on home ice, 8-3 or whatever it was that happened. Like I feel like, these games we're talking about, everything that you just said about kind of the boringness and the lack of desperation, all this sort of stuff. I think it's even worse in a way, because I think it's also coupled with teams that weren't putting in 108% of their effort. I think I'm seeing like a 95% of their effort, right? Like they're pro teams, they take pride, whatever, but you don't have to give everything that you have against the modern iteration of the Winnipeg Jets in order to beat them. Because I think, like you said, like there's just so much about kind of the boringness that, is reflective of where the Jets are struggling right now. Like if they were struggling to play tight-knit defense and all this different stuff, maybe that could be a silver lining, whatever. But the biggest point that we're talking about is that they're not able to create something from nothing offensively. They're not able to capitalize on stuff offensively. Like a lot of it has to do with the offense. And yes, there is a lot of questions around the defense too. And goaltending, we want to throw that in there. Like if there was something that was going super, super well right now, the Jets would not be in the basement of the league. Totally. Like even if there was just one thing that was doing really well. So I understand that there are problems everywhere, but I think the biggest glaring storyline in and around the team all year has been kind of that offense and everything. So, we talk about moral victories, and one of my takes that I've been pretty strong about for a good while now is that moral victories have to be things that you circle kind of before a game starts. You're like, hey, if we're able to do X, Y, Z to this player, and even if we don't win or, do this thing, then, that's big for us. Right now, every single Winnipeg Jets moral victory is tied to getting points because that's what the group needs. So cares? There's nothing else kind of there for me.
Here's the thing too. Clearly, by the style that they're playing, they're going out in these games trying to win 2-1 and trying to win. Like they're the Florida game, the shots, there were 38 combined shots on goal. Each team had under 40 shot attempts, and that's including overtime. Like that was an absolute nothing game in terms of, generating offense and like trying to generate offense. And the Jets are trying to play this shut down, grinding defensive systemless. But you look at the goals last night. First goal of the game, JT Compher's wide open in the slot, gets a whack at it and scores. Blame whoever you want. There are 3 guys standing around him. You can choose any one of them. Then, third period, 3-on-2. The Stanley Shen pairing's defending a 3-on-2. Taves is kind of the trailer. It goes down to Finney, across to Compher, wide open backdoor tap in. Is this like some grinded out defensive system that's happening here? Then the 5-1 goal is a 2-on-1. Casper beats Hellebuck to the glove side. The Raymond goal, you might call fluky. But you know what? When you get shots on goal in the middle of the crease, stuff like that happens sometimes. Sometimes the puck pops up, goes off the goalie's back, Maybe you think it's a high stick, maybe it's not, and it goes in. Because you know what? When you're in the blue paint, good things happen. That's like one of the oldest hockey cliches. So I'm not going to fault Lucas Raymond for a lucky goal when he wraps it around in the crease and the puck pops straight up in the air and goes in. And for a team that's playing this like grinded out defensive style, and maybe this is where Scott Arneal's frustration came from in the third, for a team that's trying to play this like grinded out defensive style, there sure were a hell of a lot of defensive breakdowns last night, Lyss. And the 3-on-2 goal, Compher's second of the game, which was a beautiful passing play by the Red Wings, was just brutal. I mean, Shen was late to the guy on the wall, Stanley was late to Finney on the side, and then Taves was late backdoor to Compher. It's just 3 guys late, and it results in a backdoor tap-in. And then, yeah, the other goals were in the crease as well. So this week, outside of a double minor against St. Louis where they scored twice, they've been trying to win these games 1-0, grind it out defensive style. And I can get behind that if the team is like hitting everything that moves and it actually looks like ice is hard to come by for the opposition. But to me, it looked like Detroit and Florida and all of these teams just didn't, like Florida never really woke up in that game and they still won. Detroit took 2 periods to wake up. And then when they did in the third, it was not even close. It looked like an NHL team versus an AHL team. St. Louis never woke up. Chicago never woke up. Like, that's why those games were close. Condensed schedule, blame whoever you want. But can't play a defensive shutdown style, grind it out, and then get blitzed in the third the way that they did with the way that the goals went in last night, Lyss, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think the thing that's just, really sad in a way is exactly that, where it's like, there's a little bit of trading chances back and forth. I thought for the most part, and part of the reason that I was not in agreement with Scott Arneal's assessment was that on Thursday, after the Florida game, Danielle Bain from TSN was asking some questions to the players and to the coaches about the whole idea of how you adjust when, an Eastern Conference team walks in. You have to completely, adjust to manage them kind of for one day. And then all of a sudden you have to turn around and do it for someone else who you only saw once this year and you won't see again, kind of thing. Just the whole idea of these Eastern Conference opponents, you don't know them as well, everything like that. Scott Arneal was pretty candid about it, and he was talking about how different of a style game Florida and Detroit play. And he was talking about how, Detroit's a lot faster and they, do a little bit more off the rush, and they're going to want to turn it into a track meet, he said. And so I thought that through for the first 2 periods, when it wasn't a track meet, I was like, okay, the team must be relatively pleased with how much they're kind of controlling this outcome right now. The thing that's sad is that, the team they're playing against is kind of able to, like, okay, if you're going to try and play this game, we'll play it too a little bit, this, that, whatever. But then when it actually comes down to crunch time, all the opposition has to do is put their foot down just like a little bit. And all of a sudden, yeah, it's a 5-1 game. And I understand, empty net this or whatever, but it just felt like Detroit willed the result a little bit more than the Winnipeg Jets did. And that's really hard to watch.
And I know everyone's tired of hearing of last year versus this year, but that was the Jets last year. The Jets would come in waves, and their forecheck was so good, and these other teams were like suffocating in their own end, and the Jets, it would just be one line after another. And now it's not really happening for this Winnipeg Jets team right now. So, I mean, last night's game, a 5-1 loss. They're now 1-2-2 in their last 5 after winning 4 straight. With the Leafs game that they blew, the Chicago game that they didn't even score a goal, Florida game, last night's game, not going great for this Jets team. And again, going back to that Toronto game and this whole style of play that they want to grind it out. Scott Arneal's talked all year about staying in games, and it seems like they're trying so hard to stay in these games. Like, they're beating Toronto 3-1 with 15 minutes left in the third, and they're trying to stay in these games. It's like, well, playing pretty good, like, you don't need to, you maybe blow them out 5-1, but no, that was not the case. They did not stay in that. Well, they did stay in that game. They got a point in overtime, but ended up losing that one. Another thing, Lyss, this is kind of do you have anything else on last night's game before we move on? I want to talk about the goaltender.
I guess one thing.
Yeah.
Just if we want to get a little bit more into specific players and stuff like that, we did see a reunion of the top line at one point, which I thought was kind of hilarious. And so I think that even over the stretch of the game, I think that there were some moments that the Perfetti Taves Flaherty line looked pretty good and stuff. I think that this is one of the poorer iterations that you can have of the Adam Lowry line right now with Nemesnikov and Niederreiter not exactly in their groove offensively right now. There were so many moments I found that over the course of the game, I thought that Adam Lowry pushed a ton of pucks, kind of whether it was towards the middle of the net or, drove the net and then swung the puck kind of back around for one of his line mates with a bit more open space after kind of pulling the defender's way, stuff like that, and just nothing. So I think that it wasn't the most effective use of line kind of combinations with the forwards. And then just on the defensive side, I'm not going to die on any hills or anything like that, but I need everyone to know that what I've been saying about the third pairing and whatever iteration of it for the last X number of years, and especially this season so far, was entirely, shown and captured in what we saw from some of the defense from the third pairing yesterday too.
I'm glad you brought that up.
I have nothing else to say. Because the thing is, if you're changing your opinion on these players and how many, 8-figure deals they're worth right now every single game, then you don't actually have a take on them at all. You're allowed to kind of move and adapt your opinions and stuff like that. That's what we all do. My opinions on every single player and line and whatever on this team has changed and shifted and molded a little bit. But, I had some pretty strong opinions about the pending UFA that's chilling, third pairing left-handed defense right now.
Who's that?
And I think that, the last couple of games, there are a lot of people whose minds have changed. It's one of the only bright spots, so they have to sign him and all this different stuff. I'm sorry, but, there were so many moments in yesterday's game that were perfect examples that can go into my portfolio of stuff that I want to show people when I'm saying this would be a mistake at the current market value that's being discussed and around this player for a lot of reasons. Yesterday was one of them.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. I mean, he was on the ice, the left-handed pending UFA defenseman on the third pair. He's on the ice for 4 goals against last night. He did get the assist on the goal, kind of a shot from the point that just hit a body and Koepke whacked it in. He gets the assist there. But yeah, I talk about the odd man rush chances for Detroit, and the Jets knew coming in that they were going to be a fast team, Detroit was, and try and attack them off the rush. That second goal, JT Compher, like I said, everyone's late on it. And then the Casper goal, Shen steps up in the neutral zone. Again, it's 4-1 at this point, so sure, take a chance. But the odd man rush is then played kind of poorly, goes in, it's 5-1. And yeah, the first JT Compher goal too. You want to talk about Kyle Connor standing up front. You want to talk about Shen, Stanley, whoever's on the ice there, because JT Compher's just wide open in the middle of the slot. Sure. I have time for all of those in terms of that goal. But yeah, I mean, it's been interesting, Lyss, because if you were on WST Sunday Live last year, or watched WST Sunday Live, excuse me, you heard a lot about Dylan Samberg. I would talk about Dylan Samberg probably every single Sunday because personally, my hockey analysis, I like to blend what I'm seeing with my eyes in the game with some of the analytics. And last year, the first 15 games from Samberg were like, oh my God, this guy's going to be a stud, bought in, and he was, right? And we all saw that. He's absolutely taken a step back this season. Absolutely. And Logan Stanley has absolutely taken a step forward this season, I would say, at least in terms of the offense and the confidence. We talk about this almost every single Sunday. The guy is feeling it offensively, right? But this week, I heard a little bit too much in the Stanley Samberg thing. I heard a little bit too much trade Samberg and sign Stanley takes. I heard a little bit too much Logan Stanley has surpassed Dylan Samberg and is the Jets' most second impactful defenseman. That to me is where it's okay, that's a little much for me. I can admit that both players have gone in different directions this season compared to their expectations last year, but I still think they're on a different level. I mean, Dylan Samberg got the Larkin and the Tkachuk matchup and the Kyrou matchup the last 3 games and let up 0 goals against. And Stanley in third pairing sheltered minutes last night was on the ice for 4 goals against. I don't think that these are really valid. One guy's in a contract year on an absolute shooting tear. And another thing with Samberg, Lyss, I do find it interesting that we talk about Cole Perfetti's high ankle sprain a lot. And he's a guy that already has foot speed issues. And we're like, okay, this is going to take him a lot of time to come back from. Why haven't we talked in that sense about Dylan Samberg's broken wrist And I don't mean it in terms of like, oh, it's as tough to come back from as a high ankle sprain. I'm not saying that. But what I am saying is Cole Perfetti has foot speed issues and falters with a foot speed injury and a high ankle sprain, right? And that's very tough for him to come back from. We're still seeing him kind of work back from it. Dylan Samberg has puck moving concerns. Absolutely. He has his whole career. Offensive upside concerns, all of these things, and suffers a broken wrist to his shooting hand. And it's just like, oh, trade this guy because he's a bum now. I just wanted to bring that up, but I don't know if you have any more thoughts.
Okay. I don't know why you end your thoughts like that. Do you have any more thoughts, Liz? Yeah, I do.
Well, I have more too, but
one thing that I think is really strange kind of about that argument is that, we saw the Winnipeg Jets without Dylan Samberg to start the year. And to start the year, they were better record-wise than they are right now. But there were a lot of kind of underlying things that made a lot of people go, whoa, I don't know how I feel about this start. And I'm not sure how long this is going to go on. And what if the wheels fall off? What if did come true? The wheels did, in fact, fall off. And, here we are at the end of January on the coldest day of the year talking about what we're talking about right now. There is space to have conversations about what different players bring to the team and what kind of role they have. I think any conversation around, like, surpassing doesn't make a whole ton of sense to me just because we're almost having very, very different conversations. Like Logan Stanley right now, okay, he's on the second power play unit, this, that, whatever. But you're right, Dylan Samberg's still going out there and munching 24, 25 minutes a night with Neil Pionk, who maybe hasn't had as strong of a year as everyone was hoping he would post-contract. And, Elias Salomonsson, who has a grand total of a whopping 4 career NHL games or 6 or whatever it actually is and stuff. Like, I don't know that the team thinks that Logan Stanley can and should play the role that Dylan Samberg does. I think, and this is a crazy take, and this is maybe where, I'm going to lose the room a little bit here, is that I think there's more conversation we had about, the Josh Morrissey angle than there is about the Dylan Samberg angle. If you're trying to, carve out what rules are for your defensemen and stuff like that, and Josh Morrissey's coming up and expiring, if you're trying to rework the way your D-core looks, if you want to have a sheltered, third pairing guy who goes out there and Nate Schmidt as you're trying to capitalize on his offense or whatever. And you're kind of weighing your options with the players. I have more time for that. And I don't have really time for it, but it goes from like, I think that, treating Logan Stanley as like an offensive player, that if you, take him away from the tougher competition and, allow him more ozone starts and all those different things, you might be able to kind of get the most out of the player. But you cannot do that at the expense of the type of minutes that Dylan Samberg is playing. I don't think that makes a whole ton of sense. To be completely honest with you, I think that, we saw how it looked when out of necessity, Dylan Samberg, wasn't in the lineup. So Logan Stanley had to jump up and play. And even there, I was watching the shift charts a ton to start the year. And Neil Pionk wasn't playing the same kind of competition that he was when he was with Dylan Samberg. Josh Morrissey did take on a lot more of kind of the bulk of those heavier minutes than maybe they had wanted to, just because it's not fair to Logan Stanley to ask him to do what Dylan Samberg does, just knowing the toolkit of the player and everything like that. But, maybe before I kind of let you take this over again, just on the injury side, I definitely would push back on that a little bit, just because I think they are very different injuries in terms of, how it
I just was saying that because it directly impacts the player's biggest weaknesses. Does it not?
Yeah, but I think it's more like, okay, like if someone had a concussion, how does that impact the hockey
No.
IQ? Like I think that
not every injury
as a player, the toughest part of injury, generally speaking, sometimes centers around getting back up to game speed and being able to kind of play at the same pace and intensity and level and everything like that. And I think that anything that has to do with knees and ankles and hips and stuff like that, like that impacts your mobility a little bit more. I think I have more patience for longer recovery times than anything to do with like shoulders and wrists and stuff like that. And maybe that's a really bad take, and that's why I didn't go to med school. But I think they're different injuries. I understand the kind of parallels you're trying to draw, but I don't think I agree with it.
Fair. Should we be talking about Cole Perfetti's high ankle sprain more? Sure. I just think that it's worth mentioning. And here, because part of this, before I just move on to some of the numbers, Logan Stanley gets credit for the rough stuff, right? The fighting, the hitting, the post whistle scrums. If Logan Stanley is the Jets' second most impactful defenseman, do you want him taking coincidental 4-minute roughing minors with AJ Greer in a tie game? Do you?
Also good point.
No,
because
you
that's
don't. Like,
kind of the addition by subtraction right now. Sometimes
isn't that a bad trade-off?
Yeah.
Is it not?
No, it is. It is.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
So he gets credit for the rough stuff, but he's missing
That's part
4
of the reason
minutes
why
of a
we
tie
never
game.
when Hrabchak kind of started going at it with Morrissey a little bit. It's like, hey, don't do that, because they need you out there next shift, buddy. Go get some water and some Gatorade and get back out there. Don't go sit in the box for 5 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. So again, AJ Greer, like fourth line winger for the Florida Panthers, takes a 4-minute double minor, and Stanley, it's a coincidental, so apparently that's a good thing. Although Stanley is like the Jets' second best defenseman now, so is it still a good thing? I don't know. You tell me. And let's talk about the same role that Stanley was in with Dylan Samberg out to start the season. So the goals with Logan Stanley on the ice from the start of the season to November 12th, Samberg came back on November 13th, were 12-8 at 5-on-5. That's a 60% goal share. That's great. That's Dylan Samberg elite numbers from last season. 60% goal share, right? Absolutely. When you look, it's incredibly short-sighted to say he played well in those minutes, because you look at the underlying numbers. The shot attempts, 43% of the shot attempts were in the Jets' favor. 39% of the expected goals, 42% of the scoring chances, 44% of the high-nature chances. The team was getting outshot and outchanced in these minutes, and they ended up winning their minutes. But if you dig a little bit deeper and you look at Logan Stanley's on-ice save percentage from the start of the season to November 12th, which is just how well the goalie is playing in Logan Stanley's minutes, the save percentage with Logan Stanley on the ice with Dylan Samberg out of the lineup was .948. Connor Hellebuck won a Hart last year with .927? And the Jets started 93. We talked about it. There are a ton of red flags in their underlying numbers. Because Connor Hellebuck turned into a god, they won their minutes in terms of goals. But if you watch the games and then look at kind of the shots on goal with him on the ice after and scoring chances and all of those things, they were getting outplayed in those minutes. So
the one thing I will say, to defend Logan Stanley a little bit,
okay,
is I have a little bit more time for the argument around you don't need to win your minutes exactly when you're the matchup pairing. Like if Dylan Samberg is going out there against, Dylan Larkin yesterday, and he gives up one goal, or he's, controls 45% of the expected goals. But the whole idea of that is that if anyone else was playing against that line, the goals would be 3-0, and the expected goal share would be like 30% or whatever.
Right.
And then B, the other thing is that you're kind of neutralizing that a little bit to then free up your guys to create more. So then if the Mark Scheifele line is controlling 70% of their expected goals, the Adam Lowry's line is controlling 60% of theirs, it's kind of the aggregate argument of like, hey, how can we kind of neutralize this the most and allow a little bit more to create so that our output is the most that it can be at the same time as what we're giving up is the least that it can be and everything like that. So in the matchup role, I'm not expecting the same results as I'm expecting in third pairing sheltered minutes and everything. But that kind of goes back to the overarching argument, the bigger argument that now that Dylan Samberg is back, all these like different results and everything are still poor. And so this is like, if you're not winning your matchup minutes as a matchup, if you're not winning your sheltered third pairing minute, like what?
Yeah. Here's the thing though. Like
I don't really know what to latch onto here.
No, I'm totally with you on that. And just again, to tie this back to what I started the conversation with, I can absolutely get on board for Samberg having taken a step back this season and Stanley having taken a step forward. Like absolutely,
but
I'm on board.
If you're watching, it goes like this, right?
Right.
Like I think that's the whole point.
And here's why. Dylan Samberg's on ice 5-on-5 metrics are all down this season across the board, because you want to know why? Because we can all see that he's taken a bit of a step back, right?
And the team is poor too, right? Like,
in
rising
relation
tide
to the team,
sinks all boats.
in relation to the
tide.
team, of all 6 defensemen that have played the most, Morrissey, DeMello, Samberg, Pionk, Stanley, Shen, Samberg's first in on-ice shot attempt share, first in on-ice shooting shot percentage, third in on-ice expected goal share, first in on-ice scoring chance percentage, third, so middle of the pack in on-ice high danger chance percentage, and last in on-ice shooting percentage, which is the thing he can probably control the least.
Interesting.
So
yeah, I like that, because for everyone who's kind of listening, I think that there's something to be said about, all these different numbers that we're providing all the time. Sometimes it's hard when the whole team is poor and a guy's number is down from last year, or he's still better than other guys on the team and stuff like that. Like the kind of context that they exist in matters a lot. But when we talk about relative metrics, it kind of factors out the whole idea of like I was saying, the non-rising tide sinks all boats kind of thing. Like the fact that the whole team is kind of down, these relative metrics showcase kind of the reality a little bit better. And I think that's a really important and telling kind of thing to be sharing about where this player is at and what we've come to expect of him, and how he's still contributing and breaking up plays at a very high level, especially comparatively to some of the other D right now.
Yeah, absolutely. Dylan Sandberg has also blocked more shots than Logan Stanley in 15 less games. Logan Stanley's second in the NHL in defensive minor penalties among defensemen. He's got 25 this season, minor penalties. Sandberg has taken 4, again, in 15 less games. So there are a lot of things there. I could keep going, but people don't want to. Maybe I'm getting all my Dylan Sandberg time back because I talked about him so much last year and really not as much this year. But anyways, let's move on. I want to talk about the goaltender. I see some people mentioning Connor Hellebuyck in the chat. And this is going to follow a very similar path for me from the Stanley Sandberg thing. You want to tell me that since Connor Hellebuyck has come back from injury, he's playing at a level that we're not used to and it's lower? Absolutely. I'm all for it. But let's go over Connor Hellebuyck's last 3 starts. Number 1, Chicago. The Jets he gives up 1 goal. He has a .950 save percentage, and the Jets lose 2-0 on an empty netter. Florida, that was another game where, I don't know, didn't really look like either team wanted it. You lose in a shootout. Okay, the Jets only scored 1 goal. And then last night, the Jets, again, only score 1 goal. And in terms of season-long metrics, Connor Hellebuyck definitely can't. Well, he could technically score goals if the Jets were ever winning a game and the other team pulled their goalie. He could technically shoot the puck into the net, so I won't say he can't score goals. But what he can't do is he probably can't generate offense at 5-on-5. And here's where the Jets rank league-wide in terms of 5-on-5 offense chance generation stats. They're 28th in expected goals for, 25th in shots, 25th in shot attempts, 25th in scoring chances, and 26th in high danger chances. They're bottom 7 in the league in every single major analytic that tells us how much offense a team is generating. And we want to talk about the goaltender. Like, all right, man. Like, I get it. Again, and I could start this by saying, has he been Connor Hellebuyck since coming back from injury? No, absolutely not. But he's very low on my list of problems right now. Very low.
Yeah, I think that when it comes to goaltenders, I think that something that's very important that I always sort of start off with is that multiple things can be true at once, okay? Like, I think that people love to diagnose and say, the Jets are losing because of secondary scoring, or they look at a specific game, it's like they lost because Connor Hellebuyck let in 2 softies or whatever kind of thing. And I think that so many things can and are true at once all the time. And I completely agree with you. But, you look at the expected save percentages and all these different things, like, it's not like they're making his life super easy either and all that. But last year, the Winnipeg Jets, I understand that Connor Hellebuyck won the Hart. I get it. But this was something that, weird pull, but PDO cast, my bad. Sorry. At the very beginning of the season, when the PDO cast was doing a kind of like pulse check on, like, should we be worried about some of these teams? On a Friday episode, Dmitry Filipovich and Harman Dial were talking about how the Winnipeg Jets have multiple ways to win games. So it's the sort of thing where it's like a couple variables wouldn't have to fire at all times in order, their secondary scoring could win them a game. Their top line could win them a game. Their power play could win them a game. Defensive details could win them a game. Goalie can win them a game and stuff. And right now, the thing is, last year, the Winnipeg Jets could win games if Connor Hellebuyck wasn't exactly playing 100%. So I think multiple things can be true at once, that, there are certain games that maybe the result would be different if Connor Hellebuyck lets in 1 less goal or everything like that. But there are so many other things that are getting to the point where that 1 goal is as kind of high impact as it is, right? There, last year there's a couple games here and there where it's like, okay, you give up 2 or you give up a goal in the dying minutes. Okay, you still have a 2-goal cushion and everything like that. So I'm never going to try and absolve any one person of, their responsibility when it comes to their contribution to where this team is at right now, because I think anyone who has a high impact role in this team needs to be put under a microscope a little bit. And I think they would probably all agree to an extent, right? Just because we've come accustomed to a certain kind of standard from them and it's not there. So what does that mean? How can we look at that? What can we learn from it? But yeah, I think that, pinning these things on, like, there are certain games that, if you want to talk about the, the Colorado game, game 1 in the playoffs 2 years ago or whatever, where the Jets ended up winning like 7-6 or something like that. Like, if you want to talk about Connor Hellebuyck's impact on that game, I got some time for it. The team scores 6 goals, all these different things. I'm saying that I am willing to pin losses on Hellebuyck. I just don't know that we've had a ton of them lately where I can circle and say that's where I'm going to go. I'm comfortable going there if we need to. I just don't think that we need to. I think there are other problems that are more pressing and having a higher impact right now.
I took him for trending down a few weeks ago. Hey, look, no. But seriously, like, and this is a good comment from Dom, like, your goalie has to steal games for you when things are going well. Unfortunately, Helly hasn't done that. As of late, he absolutely hasn't stolen them games, but I don't know how he can when the Jets aren't scoring goals. Like, I agree with the overall take that, like, there hasn't been a game since he's come back from injury where it's like that was all Connor Hellebuyck. The Jets didn't show up tonight and Hellebuyck just bailed them out. Like, we see a Hellebuckian effort as we've seen years and years and years in the last decade. But as of late, like, these last 3 games, I just don't, with the lack of goal scoring and lack of offensive juice and lack of, like, desperation from the team and all the things we talked about earlier, this week is not the one for me to talk about the goaltender, which there have been times, absolutely. Last thing before we get to Chuds, we're almost done ripping through all of our thoughts from last night's game. Elias Salomonsson, Lyss. I talked about him last week because he got the Austin Matthews hard match on last week's edition of Hockey Night in Canada when the Jets took on the Leafs. Last night, he gets the Dylan Larkin matchup with Dylan Samberg. And again, to me, just looks so comfortable, so poised. I think last night might have been his best game. And it's funny because he's only played, 7 games? So right now, every game could kind of be his best game if he keeps improving, right? And we might see that so far this season. But I had a tweet last night, and I'll say it here. The Winnipeg Jets, as an organization, want to make the playoffs this season, right? They've been talking about it. Why wouldn't they? The players want to make it. The coach wants to make it. That's their job. They want to make the playoffs. If the Jets want to win the playoffs, if they want to make the playoffs, Elias Salomonsson should be here the rest of the year. If they want to better prepare for next season and give some guys some valuable NHL experience, I think Elias Salomonsson should be here the rest of the year. So either way, I think Salomonsson should be up. Had a really nice play last night where the Red Wings were going to break out of the zone. He jumped a pass in the neutral zone. Again, kept his head up, calm, composed. 3-on-2, hit the trailer. Vladimir Meskov, good chance. John Gibson makes a save. But that's one of those plays where he's playing off instincts. We spoke with Jets assistant coach Dean Chenoweth on their optional practice day on Friday, and he said his instincts are really good. He thinks his instincts will only continue to get better. And that right there is a play for me where you can see his instincts on full display, where he's reading a pass in the neutral zone, stealing that puck, getting it over to Vladimir Meskov, and it goes for a direct, good scoring chance for the Winnipeg Jets. So I've been very impressed with Elias Salomonsson so far, Lyss. And I think regardless of what the Winnipeg Jets' goals in the back half of this season or the final 30 whatever games, Elias Salomonsson should be a part of it.
No, I completely agree with you. And I think that, the argument against keeping said player up is always, if it makes the team worse when they're trying to compete, is it worth the long-term kind of payoff? He doesn't make the team worse. So I don't really know if that argument has, merit right now. There's no who do you take out of the lineup for him right now at all. So I think the question would be, if the team is trying to keep their pride and dignity and still contend for a playoff spot, should he be playing with Josh Morrissey, maybe that's a conversation, I guess. I don't know. Like, and as in like, that's too much for him or the team would be poor because of that, whatever. But in terms of playing where he is right now, it's evident that he's been good with Dylan Samberg. I've really liked what I've seen from him. A couple of, great passes, a couple of great board battles and all these different things. And then the other secret third thing is the third pairing spot. And I'm sorry, like that's the best possible option in that third pairing. Sheltered minutes, getting to kind of feed pucks to Logan Stanley, if that's what you want to do, no problem. And you want to talk about getting used to the pro level and getting to learn the ropes, all this different stuff. You'll be out there defending lots of odd man rushes and, doing all kinds of crazy stuff if that's who your partner is. So I think that there's a ton that you can learn from that role. So I completely agree with you. I think that, there's the huge long-term outlook piece that would indicate that he should be in the lineup. But then if you want to look at short-term as well, hell, he should be in the lineup as well right now. So I completely agree with you. I've really been enjoying what I've been seeing. He's a guy that I've been hard on in a weird way in the last year and a half, just because, okay, everyone get their drink out, take a sip. I watch a lot of Manitoba Moose hockey, right? So I, consider myself to be a Salomonsson knower, if you will. And I think last year there was this whole conversation around or even at the beginning of this year, Elias Salomonsson is better than Neil Pionk and stuff like that. And I was like, great, now you guys are going to make me be hard on Elias Salomonsson when I don't really want to, because I think we need to temper our expectations for this player. I think that he can be good without being immediately ready to be higher impact on your NHL roster than a guy who makes $6 and $7 million, right? Like I was kind of like, I don't know if that's how dramatic we need to go right now. But all that's to say, I've really liked what I've seen from this player for a really long time. And I think that in terms of the next step for his games, I think that it's really important that he gets more NHL minutes. Like, I think that he falls a little bit more into this camp of I don't know what value there is for this player's long-term development to spend a lot more time on the Moose. And so, I'm totally on your side.
Yeah. And look, Tyson Ducharme here says trade DeMello and give the kid the keys. Rob Mahoney had a comment here. JMO made mistakes as a 21-year-old rookie, but they kept putting him out there. He rose to the occasion. Don't bury Sal behind Pionk, DeMello, whoever else sees the future. If the Jets, I'm not.
I have a take about this in a second.
Well, so. I'm not. Again, like this, you were basically just saying this where like his expectations get so high that you have to like. But if the Jets want him to be Josh Morrissey's partner next season, if that's the goal, he's way better off playing the rest of this season in the National Hockey League, whether it's with Morrissey, whether it's with Samberg, or with Stanley, in any capacity, any kind of role he gets this season, he's better off, better prepared for opening night next season if he's going to be stepping into a top pairing role with a top 5 defenseman in the sport. He's better off playing these final 30 games in the National Hockey League as opposed to going back down to the A. If that's what the Winnipeg Jets plan is. I'm not saying it is. We'll see. I mean, Salmonsson's played only a handful of games, and we're liking what we're seeing so far. I'm not ready to call him the opening night top pairing guy next season, but again, like if there's no reason for him to go back down. I don't.
So here's my take. Here's my dream. I'm glad you asked about what my dream is. Okay.
Yeah.
My dream would be for this Jets group. I think that for the rest of the season, listen, I'm not saying throw the towel in, but like I think everyone can kind of put 2 and 2 together based on where I'm at with this team, where the standings are at with this team, whatever. Say you have a couple of pending UFAs kind of on your blue line. Perhaps their names are Luke Shen and Logan Stanley. Perhaps LS is a cursed initial on this decor right now. Say you package them up, ship them off, whatever, and they're no longer kind of on this team.
Yep.
I think that we have our first free Villy of the day in the chat right now. I think that there is potential for, and hear me out. Rip Morrissey Salomonsson. Do it. Try it. See how it goes. Whatever.
Yeah, I'm here.
Neil Pionk and Dylan Samberg. I think it's important that they play together for the rest of the year to try and get them kind of both back up to
they both missed time.
They both missed time. I think that they need to get some runway together. Then that leaves Dylan DeMello as your third pairing right-handed defenseman. Dylan DeMello was able to bring out the best of, guys like Ville Heinola, guys like Logan Stanley, guys like Dylan Samberg, a few years ago when they were coming in. Get a rotating cast of left-handed defensemen from the Moose up there. And even if it's a guy like Bill, even if you give Ville 15 games, I'm sorry, hot take, I think that if you gave Ville 15 games with Dylan DeMello on the Winnipeg Jets right now, you could make it so that Ville Heinola actually has a little bit of trade value again. I think that you could do that. Like, I don't think that he's really an NHL player, whatever. I think that there's just potential to see a little bit more of what you have in some of your guys down with the Moose, whatever, or something. It's a little bit too early for like a Frey, Boumedienne, whatever sort of situation to get into that Dylan DeMello babysitting role. But I think that there's a lot of potential to just kind of cycle some guys through there. Hayden Fleury, whatever, get him up there. I don't care. Like, whatever. I think
I don't know if I can get on board with pumping up the trade value. That's
not what I mean in terms of trade, but at least,
I know.
Like, I think seeing a little bit more of what you actually have at kind of the NHL level from some of these other pieces. Okay.
I don't.
I can't believe I'm talking about a Ville Heinola needs to be the 3LD for this team right now. I'm sorry.
You're saying if you give Ville Heinola 15 games, that's just like copy and pasted from like 2019. If you give him 15 games. He goes from being a
waiver claim or for clearing waivers to being traded for a 7th. Let's go.
Boom. Value raised. Stock up. Trending up. Ville Heinola.
Trending up. Ville Heinola.
Trending up.
But you know what I mean? Like, I think just as a general concept, if there were more kind of left-handed guys like in the system, I think it'd be really interesting. But that kind of configuration of just giving Salomonsson a couple games to Josh Morrissey, and by a couple, I mean like 20, like see how it goes. And then it frees up Dylan DeMello to play in a role where I think that he can really bring the most out of a partner if he needs to.
I agree that Dylan DeMello is a great like babysitter defenseman on the third pair if that's what the Winnipeg Jets want to do. With you on that. Ville, I'm not quite as sold. I'll disagree with you on that. I think I
tried.
Yeah, no, fair.
How'd you do it?
I don't think it would go well. Like I just don't. Maybe they would break even.
Go well, but also if they trade Stanley and Shen, I don't know what the prognosis is with Hayden Fleury and all. Like, who's playing left D?
Isaac Phillips could be an option, I guess, but yeah,
sure, pump up his trade value too. I don't care.
Cale Clegg, Ville Heinola.
Pump up his trade value.
Yeah,
no, just kidding. They're all pending.
No,
UFA guys.
It's whatever, like they've all been on the Moose all season long. So it's maybe we do get a Ville sighting. I hadn't even thought of that. Wow.
I always am thinking about that.
You're
so
always thinking of
at any given moment, someone could stop me on the street. You know that like the microphone, it's like for $1, name a woman. If it's like for $1, name Ville Heinola's current path to the NHL. I'm like, guys, I got it. For you. Here's what they can do. At any moment.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, yeah, we'll maybe discuss that when the time arises. When the trade deadline's March 6th, so there's gonna be a lot of things.
And okay, also the one thing I will say, sorry, last thing.
Yes.
On like trade value, it's not even just trade value. Like I know that the Jets, there's nothing really to gain from that, but like not even just for trade value, but for the individual value. If Ville Heinola played the rest of the season with the Jets, he might get an NHL contract next year. If in as it stands right now, he won't.
Be a UFA.
You know, so it's like the Jets have nothing to gain from that because they're gonna lose him for whatever.
Yeah.
But you know, like I still think that there's a guy there. Cale Clegg too. Loki. He's kind of got the sauce. I can't lie to you.
He's got the sauce. Interesting. Okay. I'll mark that down. Keep that in mind when huge Ville tribute video. Yeah. We were debating in the press box last night. Did if anyone knows, because we don't know, did Mason Appleton get a tribute video when he came back with the Kraken? Because we were talking last night, is he going to get one in that game? And they didn't even, let alone a tribute video. Like, they showed a welcome back Mason Appleton
I didn't even notice the graphic.
First whistle of the game. Didn't even mention it, like nothing. And it was just kind of like, oh, welcome back Mason Appleton. And no one really clapped or anything. Like, it wasn't a Jets fans, welcome back Mason Appleton. Yeah, it was just, they just showed. But anyways.
I was so team no videos. Like, there's no chance there's going to be
one. I mean, yeah, you ended up being right. Yeah, I don't know.
Sky's blue, Connor.
Yeah. Okay. Let's move on to the Chuds Power Sports Power Poll. We're going to be doing our top 5 players we want named to the alumni roster. But Lyss, we'll get to the list first, and then we'll talk after about the players that have already been named. But obviously, Dustin Byfuglien's the headliner. He's the one that everyone was waiting for. There were season ticket holders in attendance at the press conference. And when Byfuglien's name came up on the roster, everyone was cheering, everyone was clapping. I'm super excited for Brian Little. We'll talk about that in just a moment here. But first, let me thank our friends over at Chud's Power Sports. Now, again, it's minus 51 with the wind chill. I haven't kept up with Environment Canada throughout this show, but it's very cold outside. There's a lot of snow. It's absolutely snowmobile season. Ice fishing season is in full effect. And Chud's has a brand new website that, if you want to check it out, very slick, a great website to showcase all the great power sports equipment that they have. And out at the corner of Highway 8 and 231 is their store. And again, it's minus 50. So if you want to curl up and maybe just visit their website, I'm not blaming you. That's what I would do as well. At least on a day like today when it is this damn cold outside. But they have some great deals on Polaris equipment, Arctic Cat Green Tag sales event, as you see on the screen right here. And in the top right corner, they have their e-commerce store. The past couple of weeks on this show, I've been talking about truenorthparts.ca and how many things they have on that website. A lot of clearance items as well. Jackets, goggles, helmets, pants, accessories, all of those things over at truenorthparts.ca. So check out their main website, chudspowersports.com, of course, and check out truenorthparts.ca, which you can access through their main website. New, slick website, so go check it out. And if you can't, or if you don't want to check out the website, you prefer to go in person and get the great service of Chud's, corner of Highway 8 and 231. They've been serving Manitobans for almost 90 years, well into their 8th decade. So they know a thing or two about power sports equipment and serving Manitobans. So thank you to them for sponsoring our Power Polls here on Winnipeg Sports Talk. Now, Lyss, we have the names for the alumni roster. We have the names in terms of who's going to be there, and we'll mention that in a moment. But let's get to our top 5 names that we want to see added to the alumni roster. And let us know in the comments down below, who do you want to see on the Winnipeg Jets alumni game roster? Keep it 2.0 because I haven't confirmed it, but I believe it's going to be only 2.0 players in this alumni game. They already did the 1.0 alumni. I think it's just going to be 2.0. Let's get to it. Number 5, goaltender, Andre Pavlik. Number 4, Tim Stapleton. Number 3, Adam Party. Number 2, Anthony Peluso getting on the list. And number 1, Toby Enstrom. Not sure what the relationship is like there with the organization, but he's still the number 1 that I'd want to see come back. Narrowly just missing probably Olli Jokinen and Michael Frolik for me, just off the list. Maybe if we had a 7-thing power poll. But what do you think?
Yeah, I mean, you say, I don't know what the relationship is like. Well, the guy who led the press conference and has the C on his jersey left, with a freaking buyout and getting the C stripped. I don't know what relationships with the orgs, what impact they'll have here, but I think if Toby Enstrom comes back, that'll be a huge win for a lot of Jets fans. Look, I have been just giddy over the thought of this for the last however many days because if you guys know anything about me, I love my Jets 2.0 players. I have my quiz where I like to just sit around and name all of them and everything like that. There are a lot of great iconic names in there, so I'm going to be pleased with anyone that shows up on this list. So the reason that we chose a couple of these guys, I leaned on fan favorite vibes in terms of who's going to be fun, who's going to have some great moments, and who maybe give us some good hockey, but mostly who's going to be a blast. So guys like Peluso and Party were just such characters. Same thing with Stapleton, and there's a couple of great Andre Pavlik moments. So I think it's going to be really fun to see what the rest of the roster kind of looks like. Obviously, I think if I had to list out X number of guys, kind of going into this that I think would be on this initial roster, guys like Stastny and Perreault and Wheeler and Ladd and Little, whatever, like those all would have made the cut. The rest of them get a little bit more interesting to me just because there are a lot of guys, like someone like a Mark Stewart, for example. Like, can a guy like that play because he's
assistant coach of the Oilers?
Busy?
Like, no.
I don't know how that
no.
falls. And a lot of these other guys, but Blake Wheeler is like a advisor with the Rangers or something like that. Like, I know that there are different roles that a lot of these players do still hold in hockey, so I don't really know kind of what the the give and take. Like when we were making this list, I wanted Alex Burmistrov on it. You're like, dude, he's still playing pro in Russia. And I was like, oh,
in the
whoops, I
K.
didn't know that.
Yeah.
So I don't always do the best of following exactly where every single Jets 2.0 player has gone since they left the team, except for Kendall McCardle. He is a CFA now. I do creep him on LinkedIn sometimes.
Nice.
But I think that it'll be interesting to see who's able to kind of make it out, because like a guy like even like Ron Hainsey has like a massive role. Does he still not with the PA?
Yeah,
I know he did for a while, so I don't know what people's schedules and commitments allow them to do with all those obligations. But besides the point, if all 5 of these players in this list get to come, I will be pleased.
What about Par Lindholm? What about Bogdan Kiselevich? What about James Wright?
Bogdan Kiselevich never played a game.
Damn it. Oh, what about I think Matt Hyman said it here. Al Montoya is the goalie. Boom.
Al Montoya.
The goalie thing is interesting. Like, I think it'll be Pavlik. But yeah, we'll have to. Chris Mason just for the pads.
Michael Hutchinson. Pull up. Michael Hutchinson.
Hutch, yeah.
Got
was
his
just
Winnipeg
around the
wife,
team
and
recently.
He was at my work banquet a few months ago, and I remember seeing him.
Did
and
you
I was
ask
like,
him?
I know who this man is.
If there's an alumni game.
Yeah.
Thoughts? Yeah.
I did. Once I figured out who it was, I was like, hey, man. Liz here.
Yeah.
What do you,
I'm Liz from Winnipeg Sports Talk. Just got a few questions for you. Yeah.
Hey, man. Your wife is getting inducted into the Volleyball Manitoba Hall of Fame. Like, what the heck is going on here? But I recognized, I was like, I know this man. And I was like, I couldn't figure out where from. Another thing about me, Liz Lore, notoriously horrible at recognizing NHL players' faces outside of like hockey contexts. Like one time, one of my friends was sending me a bunch of pictures. He sent me a picture of, I think, like Mikko Rantanen, and I was like, I don't know who that is. He was like, are you serious? So yeah, I don't always remember everyone.
Yeah.
My bad.
Yeah. Oduya, that's a good one. Paul Postma.
Peter Bonino, great pull.
Ville Heinola.
Great pull. One career game.
Ville.
Paul Postma's a good one.
Ville. Yeah, good one. Chris Mason.
Double Mason. Yeah, those are the only two like same last names to ever play for the Jets, and they're both goalies. How weird is that? The Jets have had very, very, very few goalies. They've been here for 15 years. They've had very few goalies play for them, all things considered.
Why is that? Here's the team that they did name: Blake Wheeler, Andrew Ladd, Brian Little, Matthew Perreault, Paul Stastny, Chris Thorburn, and Dustin Byfuglien. Obviously, would love to see GST line with Glass, Slater, and Thorburn if it's possible.
I think that'll come. I think that'll happen.
I think so too. Yeah, get Ladd, Little, Wheeler out there. Get the GST line. Hard match against the Habs top line with GST.
Genius.
Freeing up the Ladd, Little, Wheeler to go get some offense. Yeah. We're winning this game. This
is such a great obscure Jet. Someone in the chat, John Albert.
John Albert.
Tom Servo, 1977. John
Eric
Albert.
Fair. Nice. Yeah, get Eric
That's
Fair.
That's a classic.
Yeah. Sami Niku. He's definitely still playing somewhere.
Nick Patan.
Definitely still playing somewhere.
Yeah, he's in Russia.
Antropov is a good one.
His brother is on the Italian Olympic team.
Ooh, nice.
Why do I know that?
Why do you know that? Anyways, yeah, I'm like, obviously Buff is a big thing, and like everyone's gonna be so pumped for that. But Brian Little to me is gonna be a great one to see him skating again back. Just the way things ended with the injury. Very excited to see Brian Little back out there. And again, I asked Blake Wheeler about Brian Little last week, and he's very excited to play with him again in this game.
Man, one of my core Jets memories is last year getting to go to the Brian Little, like the honoring Brian Little game with my little brother, whose favorite player is Brian Little. And we were sitting in our season seats in like the 200s, and it was like right in front of the box that Brian Little ended up sitting in. And it was just like such a cool thing to get him go out there and watch him skate that lap. Like that was so special. Like what a guy. That
was a really fun game last year for sure. With Brian Little and the fans were awesome that day. Absolutely.
Pittsburgh game? Question mark?
Pittsburgh game. So. Yeah, afternoon game. Jets legend Olli Jokinen. Yep, bang. Stapleton said Gucci Bogosian. Bogo's still in the league. He's still playing.
Hey, he might not be in this time next year.
True. That's the interesting part. Like, you look at a lot of these players and like some of the ages around the National Hockey League. You see Crosby, even Taves, like Marchand. There are these guys that are 37, 38 years old, still contribute. Corey Perry. Like a lot of these guys like Wheeler, Ladd, Little, Buff are all like in and around 40, Some are under 40. Some are slightly over, like Perot too.
This whole crew, I think, should be
the Habs
under 41.
The Habs said David Savard, who's 35. And I'm like, he's not playing anymore? When they said him, I honestly...
No, are they not talking about like his dad or something, like Denis Savard or something?
Bro, it's David Savard, who like got traded for a 1 at the deadline.
No, I know who David Savard is. That was Pierre-Luc Dubois' mentor. I know that.
He is on the team for the Habs. As is Paul Byron.
Oh.
Yes.
Oh yeah, that's another
Paul Byron.
I just thought, I guess Denis Savard's 64 because it was like Denis Savard won cups with a cup with Montreal. I don't know, when I saw their initial roster, I just figured it was Denis Savard. Whoa.
And when they were showing the highlight pack of David Savard, it was him like scoring a goal like 2 years ago. I was like, okay, wow.
Man, remember when people wanted the Jets to trade for him at the trade deadline?
I do. That was the time.
He ended up going for a haul.
He did. And that wasn't that long ago.
It wasn't.
Anyways, there's the roster. This is our Chud's Power Sports Power Poll for who we want to see added to the team next. So many great mentions in the chat as well. So many players that we could have on this list. But thank you to Chuds for sponsoring our Power Polls here on Winnipeg Sports Talk Sunday Live. Let's get right into our next segment. And this is a fun one. This is the one everyone loves, or at least that's what we think. Trending up, down. This is the part of the show where we pick one Winnipeg Jet who's trending up or down over the past week of play. We can't choose the players who we took last week in any way in terms of up or down. And who we took last week was Iafallo and Stanley for up, and Nemesnikov and Barron for down. So those players for us are off the board, but for you guys in the chat, absolutely not. Fire away. Who do you have for trending up, down? Let us know down below. Lyss, I'll let you go first in this one. Who do you got for trending up?
Can I take the easy? Can I take the freebie?
Of course.
I'm going to take Elias Salomonsson.
Love it.
As my trending up pick.
Love it.
Enough said. If you didn't hear our rant about him about 10 minutes ago, it was well worth your time. So you can go back and watch it. You're live here watching. I'm sure you don't need me to get back into it. Elias Salomonsson. Great game yesterday, buddy. Good stuff.
Good work. I'm going to take Jonathan... up no one. I'm going to take Jonathan Toews. Is that a bad take?
Why? Yeah.
Because the Jets have scored like 2 even strength goals this week, and he directly factored in on one of them. So, like, I don't know. He stole the puck.
The bar is solo.
Yeah.
The bar is solo.
Yeah, he stole the puck from a Panthers player, put it on Perfetti's tape, and they scored one of their only goals that they've scored this week. So, I don't know. You know what? Cole Koepke, too, I think is another one. He's a guy that, like, I'm kind of puzzled that he's
stick to your guns. Stick to your guns.
No, I'm sticking with Toews, but
Toews.
I am kind of shocked that Koepke has been a healthy scratch, like, at all this season.
I know.
But anyways, I'll take Jonathan Toews for trending up. Again, pretty low bar right now with the state of the team in terms of trending up. But I've actually thought Toews has been a lot better, especially since the holiday break. And then earlier this week, like the Chicago game, his line was the best line. The Florida game, obviously, he factored in on the only one goal. And yes, Darth Skater says, lol, he had one good play. That's enough for this week. Genuinely, yes, that is. That is literally good enough for this week. So I'm gonna take Jonathan Toews. Lyss, who do you got for trending down?
I got 2. So why don't you go ahead? You go first.
Okay.
And we'll see if we have some overlap, and I'll take the other guy. But you go first.
I wrote down the whole team. Can't take the whole team. No, I'm gonna take Kyle Connor.
That was one of my takes.
I'm going to take Kyle Connor. He had a great view of the JT Compher goal, front row seat, in the middle of the slot. The first JT Compher goal, I should say. And otherwise, like the top line, since they moved Velarde down, there have been games, and there was the double minor against St. Louis where they scored twice. But the large sample of like since the holiday break to now with Connor, Scheifele, Iafallo is not great. I know Nick Lynham was in our chat earlier. He tweeted out the numbers earlier today. And it's just it's not pretty in terms of the how things are going here. Let me try and bring this up because I want to give a shout out to Nick, and I also want to get this correct. Since January 1st, 13 games played, the top line, Kyle Connor and Mark Scheifele with Alex Iafallo, they're being outscored 14-10. The shot attempts are 46%, the share of them. The expected goal share is 43%. High danger shots, 36%. It's just not like the goals aren't there at even strength, and the process isn't right either. And I think Connor and Scheifele have had moments. They always have moments, especially like, on the power play. But I'm going to take Kyle Connor because we're seeing a few of the defensive plays as well that we don't like, especially with that JT Confer goal. So I'm going to take Kyle Connor.
Good take.
Okay,
That was one of mine.
thank you.
My pick is a guy who, in my head, I was like, we've been kind of hard on him. We haven't taken him once for trending down yet this year. Okay. So I'm feeling as though I have no problem taking Nino Niederreiter as my trending down pick
taken him
for
once
this week. We haven't taken him once this year, which I think is a little bit wild considering kind of how the season has gone. But I'm really struggling with him and Nemestikov playing on the same line. I just think that they're not currently equipped to kind of play off of each other and help each other kind of get out of these current slumps. I think they need to be kind of split up and have other line mates. I think Adam Lowry right now feels to be doing a lot of the heavy lifting on kind of that line. And I feel like, Nino Niederreiter had a couple of looks yesterday where it's like, I feel like, this guy of the past few seasons might have been able to finish on that chance. A couple of different retrievals that I didn't like the way he played them and stuff. So he's going to get my trending down pick for this week.
Nice. I like that pick. Yeah, Kepke and Salomonsson trending up, everyone else trending down. Pick Sandberg and get it over with. Yeah, he's getting close to being picked for me. But again, hard matched against Larkin, Tkachuk, and Kyrou this weekend. No goals against.
He's fine.
Yeah, there's some great picks here. Great picks in the chat. I wish Ehlers was still here. Good take, Dark Moon. Trending down Jets playoff hopes. Trending down Comrie. Wow, Waiters trying to stir it up with a goalie. Everyone get mad at Waiters. No, I'm kidding. Perfetti, Nemestikov, Nino, DeMello, and Schenner making the team worse. The trending down picks. There you go. I find that interesting that we haven't taken Niederreiter really all year. And last week we took Nemesnikov. This week we're taking Niederreiter. I almost considered a super under the radar Lowry, and not because of what he's like done this week, but like the thought of trending up because I think he'll have a good week this next week. Maybe if he gets some new line mates, maybe if some of these chances start going in, because I did think last night Lowry actually was not bad. And you brought this up earlier, Lyss. There were a lot of chances that he created, got the puck into good spots, and then it would just die on a stick or it would be a soft shot. All of those things. So Nick says Connor and Scheifele trending down. Boom, the duo. I'll take Kyle Connor. And that is it for us for trending up down. Let's get to our final segment here on the show, an extended edition of WST Sunday Live, but not really as extended. It's really just becoming the norm, is for us going from 9 to 10:30. One burning question. This is the part of the show where we open up the chat room for questions and we try and rapid fire through as many as we can. Sorry, I'm chuckling at the chat now. We try and rapid fire through as many of these as we can before we wrap the show. So drop your one burning question in the chat down below, and Lyss and I will try and answer as many as we can before we wrap today's show. Really appreciate you all sticking with us on this very chilly, crisp, cold, whatever adjective you want to use, morning here in Winnipeg, with the wind chill minus what, 51? I haven't looked, but anyways, tough morning for the outdoors temperature. Lyss, I don't have a one burning question for you. Do you have a one burning question for me? Perchance?
Perchance. I do. One burning question for you. What is your afternoon plan in terms of some football games today?
Well, I'm going to not watch the AFC Championship game, and then I'm going to watch the NFC Championship game. Those are my plans.
Yeah,
well, okay, I shouldn't be so mean. I'm going to watch both. But the AFC Championship game, to me, has no juice.
That's like third screen behavior.
It has no juice.
Yeah.
One of the most sauceless AFC Championships of recent memory. All right, let's roll. Let's roll through these questions. We're already getting a ton.
Anytime I have to watch New England Patriots football, it's a bad day. So.
I mean, yeah.
I will be going to the Moose game instead of that.
Nice.
So.
Right. Moose game. Big Moose game today. 2:00 down at Canada Life Center. Should be fun. Grand Rapids, right, is in town?
Yes.
And
they had a really tight game against them on Friday. Ended up losing, giving up a late goal kind of thing. But Grand Rapids is a freaking wagon this year. So I think it'll be a fun one today.
Yeah. Name three
Lots of
players whose
questions.
trajectory after being drafted has improved under Keen Roy. I went on a major draft and develop rant the last number of weeks. It's clear that since 2017, it's just Perfetti and Sandberg. And it's not going well. We're talking about Elias Salomonsson. Maybe
No,
he'll
but
be a guy.
even that though, like I like that question though, because can you bring it back up? Is it still there?
Yeah.
Whose trajectory after being drafted has improved under like Cole Perfetti? I would argue that his trajectory has not gotten better
Wow.
because he was
Interesting.
projected to be
Yeah.
like a top 5 pick in this like stacked draft class, and it was like he has all these tools and all this different stuff like
Yeah.
improved. Sandberg, yeah, like I don't think anyone was really expecting him to necessarily have this.
Brad Lambert
full...
is the most fascinating one for me. Let me bring up
We can
his.
talk about Brad Lambert for a really, really, really long time.
We definitely can. But Brad Lambert, with the Seattle Thunderbirds in his last year in the dub, had 38 points in 26 games, 26 points in the playoffs in 17 games with a championship-winning Seattle Thunderbirds team, outproduced Dylan Guenther on the same team, the same Seattle Thunderbirds team. Then he comes to the Jets organization. His first year with the Moose has 55 points in 64 games, 21 goals in an AHL season. And since then, it's just been like, then he goes down to 35 points in 61 games. This year he's at 9 points in 24 games. Like, since that dub season where he was riding hot with the Seattle Thunderbirds, it's just been, he had one good year at the AHL. Maybe some of that carried over, and it's just been pretty, it's been declining since then. You make a great point, though, Lyss, that, like, even Perfetti's trajectory maybe even isn't, like, I didn't even think about that.
I don't know, much to consider.
Yeah, much to consider. Matthew Hyman, why prolong the inevitable? Just declare the Jets as sellers. I wonder when the organization will. The trade freeze is February 4th at midnight, I believe. The trade freeze for the Olympic break, the roster freeze. So do you think we see a move before then, Lyss?
I was going to say another one to answer another question. I don't remember
I want to get
what
to
it
this in a
was.
moment.
From Darth Skater, is there a crazy hot take that Lyss hasn't told us today? Sure.
Whoa.
Here's another one to respond to that question.
Wow.
I think the Jets make a trade before February 4th.
Wow. Hot take.
That is probably the hottest one of the day, actually.
Yeah.
Save the best for last.
Like,
I think they make a trade before February 4th.
Like things actually happening? No way. No way.
Yeah,
I think that's a hot take.
it's a defenseman. I don't know which one. I'll leave that for you to figure out. But
I think if I had to guess,
I think they make a trade before
Shen. I think Shen will be the first
that's
one.
kind of what I think too.
Yeah. Nick Lynham, Morgan Barron, trade candidate. This is interesting.
Great take.
This is interesting because we don't really talk about him as a trade candidate because he's one of the few players that, like, relative to their expectation coming into the season, is playing better than expectation, right? Like, he's one of the only players that is kind of doing that. He just signed a 2-year deal at $1.85 million. So he's got an extra year of term. He's playing well. We all see it. He's on the fourth line here, which a lot of people will say is bad. He should be up and playing more. What do you think on Morgan Barron? More or less less should they trade him, and more, well, no, just answer however you want. How about I don't prime the question? Morgan Barron, trade candidate?
Yeah, don't lead me in a certain direction. I think that the question was phrased in the way that it was on purpose. Trade candidate, absolutely. And this is a player that a lot of teams would love to kind of bring in if they're looking to shore up some depth in an affordable way, with a guy who plays in a way that's conducive to bottom, line, whatever, that you can still get the most out of his effectiveness and everything like that. Morgan Barron also has going for him this whole idea of certain players are more aesthetically pleasing to watch than others, and the way that he skates and the way that he kind of carries himself makes it look like he's trying all the time. It makes it look like he's got, a really good kind of package of skills and everything. I like this player, don't get me wrong, but if you're starting to shop guys, if you're holding on to Gus Nyquist or whatever, and the best thing out there is a 7th round pick, like, trade him if you want. I don't really care. But if someone is willing to give you a decent package for something that involves Morgan Barron, like, you got to be answering those calls. I'm not saying that you do it. I'm not saying he's one of those guys that I put into the camp that some people do with some of the players that they're sick of and they're just like, get rid of him, trade him for a bag of pucks or whatever. Morgan Barron definitely doesn't fall into that category, but he might have a decent level of kind of market value right now. So definitely pick up the phone if people are calling on him.
pick up the phone. Yeah, the Jets are in a spot where they should be listening on players like Morgan Barron for sure. I think this is a great take. Opinion on Barron as a trade candidate: low cap hit, plus 1 year of term, big, fast, good defensively, penalty killing, scoring per time on ice, per 60. Has Tampa Bay vibes, similar case to Coleman, Hagel. They're not shy to move prospects. I do get Tampa Bay vibes from Barron. Hagel's different because multiple firsts in that deal. Like he was kind of always going to be a stud and was super cheap. Coleman, though, I can get on board. Like similar traits to those guys for sure. I think this is a really good take, and you could see Tampa Bay doing a move like that, but you could see a lot of teams. It's a copycat league. Tampa's done that a few times. Maybe Morgan Barron drives up a price that you can't refuse, you know? And I know he's one of this is the issue. He's one of the only players that's performing above their expectation this season, right? And I don't know. He's one of like a handful of guys. So it'd be tough to be like, yeah, trade that guy. But I don't know. Sometimes the market is the market.
I also think the other thing to consider is how many, like, if the Jets are going to be true sellers, which I think that they should be to a degree, I think that the whole idea of packaging, like, imagine what, like, low-key, a Barron Stanley package could net you from a contender that's looking for, like, an affordable upgrade on their depth. I don't know.
I'm imagining. Yeah. How bad is this 4-game road trip going to go from Tom? It won't be pretty, I don't think. I mean, unless they can start scoring some goals. I don't know.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a tough next couple of days.
Yeah, this stretch to the break is interesting, just because they play some really good teams and they're not playing well. Second last one here. Does Jonathan Toews remove his no move clause to go to a contender? This is something that we discussed last week. I would lean towards no, just because I think we touched on this last week. I think the comeback for him was more about playing in his hometown rather than chasing a cup. Like, obviously he wanted to have his cake and eat it too, per se, in terms of coming back to his hometown and winning a cup with the Winnipeg Jets. Like, coming into the season, we thought this would be a fringe playoff team or above that. And he thought that too, of course. But I don't know, like, if this is his last season, I think I could see it, but I don't think it'll be his last season. So therefore, I think he stays with the Winnipeg Jets. Excuse me.
Yeah, I don't think he's going anywhere.
I don't think so. I don't think so either. But I don't know. I wouldn't be shocked if he did. I don't think it's as like black and white as like he's not going anywhere. You know, like I think it's an interesting scenario because it's a unique one and one that
it's very unique. It's very unique for sure. But I mean, you could almost put it in not really. I was gonna put it into like Claude Giroux sort of territory with just like a guy is where he wants to be. John Tavares, even, it was like, you know, like these players, they're opting to go home, and you would have to pry home out of their hands pretty strongly, I think.
Yeah. One burning question: what contract are you giving Perfetti? This is a tough.
This is an insane question.
This is a tough one
because I don't know how to answer it. It's so tough. I think you go term on him. And like, obviously I have a huge belief in this player. I think, you know, people are saying, I see in the chat, there's a 3x3, whatever. Like, maybe this is a crazy take. Rip like a 6x6 or something. I know everyone is so. I knew you were
going to say that. I knew you were going to say go long term. Buy low? Well, is this essentially what you're saying? Like,
for sure, yeah. Like, go long term. I think that, like,
interesting.
I believe in this player. I think that with the rising cap environment, I think a $6 million cap hit is pretty reflective of if you're trying to hedge bets a little bit, but also trying to be respectful of, you know, the fact that this year hasn't been super strong, whatever. Because this player could have played himself into $8 million category. He hasn't. No. But I also think that there's way too much there to be sitting in this $3 million, you know, category, whatever. I think you've kind of run out of time in terms of continuing this bridge situation. Mm-hmm. But I believe in this player way more than I think the average person does. So that's why I think my take is so kind of outlandish. But this is one of those that, like, I think any contract that anyone could present me with, I could be like, well, that's a bad contract for a certain reason, or that's a good contract for a certain reason. Like, it's a very, very, very complicated one.
Yeah, it's extremely complicated for Perfetti because coming into the season, I mean, he had 50 points last year, we were expecting another step forward, and I think this high ankle sprain really did kind of destroy his season in a way. He's talked about the lack of confidence he has to push off that foot and the explosiveness that he's lost and all of these things, and I do think he's looking better as of late. I don't know if I could stomach 6 years, although I believe in the player too, and I think he's a strong buy low candidate. Because if you truly believe that the high ankle sprain derailed his season, why wouldn't you go 5 or 6 years and get him at a price that next year he'll be out playing, right?
Yeah. And I do fall into the camp. If you think that a player has relatively positive value, I think that you do go longer term to a degree right now, just with the whole kind of cap environment. One thing that did make me mad in these earlier Stanley conversations in the last couple of weeks is everyone talking about the cap environment where it's like $5 million is fine because the cap is going up, whatever. Like the cap's going up for everybody. So I think it's really important not to just be like, oh yeah, this player can get $7 million when they're only worth $3 million, because let's just throw money away because it's going up for everyone. If it's on term, you still are going to have to move that at some point, and that's going to be difficult if you're paying someone kind of double what their actual value is in current terms. But I think that that's a player that, if anything, absolute worst case scenario, could become a reclamation project on a decently friendly deal in kind of the long term. I understand not wanting to stomach 6 years. I get that for sure. I just think that if anyone is looking at this player and thinking that, a $2 million, $3 million, I just don't think that that's reflective of what this player can still do.
No, I think this is a good question from Brent though. Is 6x6 buying low?
No.
Right.
No,
so I'd venture more to side with Chuck here, 4x4.5 or 4x4, something along those lines.
No, and that's fair.
Like I think there's a lot less risk there, and you're also still getting his age, 25 to 29 seasons, and if this truly is a player that can only really be, a good third wheel on a sheltered scoring line, a la Nemestikov, Ehlers, Perfetti of last year, if that's really like all his ceiling is like a decent middle six scoring option that goes months without scoring, like seemingly every single season, I think the 4x4.5 protects you a little bit from that risk of him maybe not figuring it out. And also is the best mix of, it's not just a 2-year deal. Like if he shreds next season, then, you already have to pay him again. It's like, okay, if he plays well next season, then you have him for a few more years. Like I don't think going 8 years is really smart, or going 6x6. I don't know. It's scary.
No, I think that's fair. I feel
a lot
like
could change. We got a lot of games left this season too.
We have a lot of games left, and I also think that we are like, I don't know. I feel like for so long I kind of always fell into the camp of like guys would sign for like 2 or 3 years, or they'd sign for 7 or 8. And I feel like now we're seeing a lot more deals kind of fall into every single year of term. There's 1 year, 2 or 3 or whatever. So I think it'll be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, there's an element to this where I tweeted out this week, I still think Cole Perfetti is a big part of the long-term solution for the Winnipeg Jets. I still believe in this player, but I think the Winnipeg Jets are in a good spot to kind of play the market and not only get him for a decent amount at a smaller price tag, given how he's played this season, but also you're getting him for a number of years and still believing in the player. And still, like, I don't think, like you just said, that the answer is either 6x6 or 1 year deal. I think there's something in the middle there that is good for both. Well, maybe it's not as good for Perfetti because he's having a brutal contract year, which is, just like tough. But I don't know. I think 4x4.5 is where I'm going to sit today, January 25th, with a lot of time left. And we'll see what he does this season, the rest of this season. He's looked better with Velarde, right? Like you give him some quality line mates, you give him a top line player, and he's looked better as of late.
Top line locked up until 2030, whatever.
Yeah. Add Perfetti to the list there. Anyways, that was one burning question. Thank you everyone for submitting some great questions in the chat today. Really, really appreciate it. And thank you to everyone for sticking around today. WST Sunday Live, very extended edition, all the way past 10:30 as we talk about the Winnipeg Jets. There's never a shortage of topics for us here on this show. Lyss, before we go on WST Sunday Live, anything else you want to say? Anything else you want to bring up? Any more hot takes? Star Skaters looking for more hot takes as we wrap the show.
Oh my gosh.
Final word before we wrap.
No, I just think that it'll be interesting. I feel like every single week we do this exact same thing. We're like, hey, any last thoughts? I'm like, I think this week's gonna be interesting. But I think that we're now getting into the territory where, the later the season goes, like we've kind of gotten out of like, can't believe this never really came up. Some people did mention it in the in the chat, but we're kind of out of coach firing season. Like I feel like a lot of times when people think that there's still time to, turn the season around, whatever, like they fire their coaches in November, December. And so like I think that we're kind of getting into the like accept your fate season a little bit. So I think that as days have gone on, I think people are getting a little bit more realistic about what the direction of this team is that they have to go. I think this week more than anything else, I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing a little bit more behavior that exhibits this push is done. I think that Christmas holidays, there's always the like, okay, if we come back and reset, we just got to win this 7
Just
game
like the
series.
2019 Blues.
Exactly. Well, 2019 Blues were on a heater at this point already. So I think that I think we're starting to get a little bit more into realism territory. So it'll be really interesting to see kind of if anything happens.
It is going to be interesting. I mean,
I could see something interesting happening this week, and just in terms of like a wacky new Blues call up. So I don't know.
The holiday break
like
is so close. And then coming out of the holiday break list, don't worry. They're going to go on a tear. They're only going to be 7 points out of a playoff spot. So they're going to go on a run. They're close. They're staying in these games. So they're right there.
Darth Skeeter's really egging me on. I wish I had more hot takes for you guys right now, but I don't. I feel like I kind of used my quota. You got what you got for the
One
week.
last hot take. Well, yeah. I wrapped a show a few weeks ago with a rant about the Olympic ice. Maybe I'll save that for next week. There's no more rants. My rant has flipped. Well, no, it hasn't. I need another week to sit on it.
What are you talking about right now?
Remember when I was ranting about the Olympic ice and how much of a joke it was that they didn't have it ready? I might have flipped my stance, but I need another week to mull it over as we get closer to the holiday break. So anyways, next week, the Winnipeg Jets this week take on the Devils on Tuesday, the Lightning on Thursday, Panthers on Saturday, Stars on Monday, February 2nd. And then they come back, and it's Winnipeg Sports Talk ticket night, the last game before the holiday break. The Jets take on the Montreal Canadiens on February 4th. So if you don't have tickets for that already, winnipegjets.com/tickets, and you can find the WST ticket pack as a part of that. And we can join you there for that game against the Montreal Canadiens. The WST nights have been an absolute blast this season, even though the team isn't winning as many home games. The last one was the LA game. Maybe got the WST bump there. With that one, when the Jets won 5-1, and it was one of the best nights in the building so far this season, at least. So the WST ticket pack nights have still been an absolute blast. It's great to pop down and see everyone before the game, and obviously Huss and Remo are in the seats for the whole game, chopping it up, all things Jets, as you know. So join us for that February 4th, Jets and Habs for Winnipeg Sports Talk ticket pack night. Super fired up for that. I am on the big show this week. Hustlers in Costa Rica at the poker tournament with Coolbet and Jeff Hamilton, who I saw at the game last night up in the press box. Hammer is fired up for this Costa Rica trip. So with Huss away, Remus and I will be holding down the fort on the big show. So we'll be back tomorrow, 1 o'clock, right here on Winnipeg Sports Talk for a full week of Winnipeg Jets coverage as they hit the road for a tough 4-game road trip. Devils, Lightning, Panthers, and Stars. So from Lyss Houde, I'm Connor Hrabchak. Thank you for watching this edition of WST Sunday Live. We'll talk to you tomorrow, 1 o'clock, right here at Winnipeg Sports Talk. Stay warm, everyone. I think it's warmed up in the time that we've done this show. Still going to be a chilly one. So stay warm, enjoy your Sunday, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.